even do that. She just is a host of Fox every day. Here's what she says yesterday. Play this clip.
Madam What's happened to our judiciary is beyond me.
Yeah. So when the American public hears this and they think these were once upstanding people in their communities and their professions, and they put it all on the line for this, I mean, have you dug into their motive? Like, what inspired them to carry out these acts and harbor criminals?
They're deranged is all I can think of. I cannot believe, I think some of these judges think they are beyond and above the law, and they are not. And we're sending a very strong message today. If you are harboring a fugitive, we don't care who you are. If you are helping hide one, if you are giving a TDA member guns, anyone who is illegally in this country, we will come after you and we will prosecute you. We will find you.
If I could just, and again, it's the lawlessness of this administration. I want you to think about it like this, though. Now, this specific migrant in Milwaukee County, he showed up for his court hearing. The judge, state court judge, was administering justice. Whether that individual would go to jail, the individual was charged with, I think, domestic violence. But he showed up for his court hearing. If the Trump regime is going to do stings in state courthouses, you think the people are going to show up for their court hearings in the future? No, you're going to cause more crime by doing it this way. Stop interfering with state court proceedings. And as the judge said, as Dugan said, you want to arrest him? Go arrest him at the house somewhere else. This is my courthouse. What are you doing here? Here's Pam Bondi again. Play this clip.
See these judges trying to obstruct your efforts to make this country safer. What is your message to them?
We are going to prosecute you, and we are prosecuting you. I found out about this the day it happened. We could not believe, actually, that a judge really did that. We looked into the facts in great depth. That's her picture up on the screen, Hannah Dugan, who is now in custody. You cannot obstruct a criminal case, and really, shame on her. It was a domestic violence case of all cases, and she's protecting a criminal defendant over victims of crime.
In fact, and I think Jessica Tarlov put the argument into the right context here during the show The Five. Play this clip.
Now you're talking about this woman, a county judge. And when Pam Bondi comes out there and says, we will come after you and we will prosecute you, we will find you, that is meant to have a chilling effect. Well, they didn't need to.
What's your solution? Again, you cite polls, but I apologize. Adults have to do the adult job, and it's not going to be popular.
You know what the adult job is? First of all, not announcing this on social media, having to take it down and then putting it back up. The adult thing to do would be to have called her in and have her come in and have a conversation about it. They didn't need to publicly arrest this woman. They wanted to make a
Julia, I have a feeling you have something to say about
it. They didn't need to make a show of it, but everything is for the cameras.
Somebody who's actually...
Here she is again. Play this clip right here.
But yes, in our Fox News polling, you see an positive approval for the president on border security, but he's underwater in terms of handling immigration. And now that's true across the board on all the major polls. You've seen it in Reuters. You see it in Quinnipiac. You see it in the YouGov poll. Americans have only seen 3 months of what this administration is doing in terms of immigration. And they went from approving it 10 plus points to a strong disapproval. And that's because it feels completely lawless. And Greg says these are activist judges. The Supreme Court, a conservative court that Donald Trump himself was able to pack, is not an activist.
I'm talking about her.
No, I'm talking, but it's about all of them. He's gone against the Supreme Court.
But
he's gone against the Fourth Circuit. Fourth Circuit, a Reagan appointee who wrote that decision.
But on Fox, they have these like legal analysts like this guy, John Turley, like the worst law professor ever. And he's out there saying, of course you should be able to arrest state court judges. You can't use your office to shield somebody from law enforcement. Hey, Turley, the state court judge, wasn't trying to shield anybody. She was trying to go about her duty as a state court judge and going about proceedings without having our courtroom raided by the feds while she's under her judicial immunity and while she's under her judicial duties. Here, play this clip.
You can't use your office to shield someone from law enforcement, and you become part, obviously, of the law breaking.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of hubris involved to think that you can get away with something like that. Professor Turley, thank you so much for giving up your Friday night to be here.
So you may know this about me, but I'm a new father, and with everything that's going on in the world, if I wasn't already in protect my family mode, I'm particularly so with all the uncertainty taking place right now. So look, I'm focused on life insurance. So I don't just protect my family now, but I protect them in the future. And so for me, when I go think about life insurance, I want to make sure that I'm getting the best. That's why I go to Select Quote. Select Quote is one of America's.
So you got this guy on Fox right here who's trying to basically take the role of Jesse Waters. So he's like auditioning because Jesse Waters was off for the day. And this guy's like, you know what? I don't like due process. I'm an American. I don't like due process. And then he uses the name. This is what they always do. They use the name of people who have died, who have been murdered by migrants, to basically say, that's why we need to throw out due process. What due process did the victim get? They didn't get due process.
With all due respect, this whole argument about these Venezuelan gang members or people who say they aren't in a gang, but they've got MS-13 in code on their knuckles to say that, well, whatever it, okay, well, not everybody. You've also sat here and argued against using tattoos to say if someone's a member of MS-13. So anyone who has a tie to MS-13 or the government suspects of it, if you tell me that they deserve due process, I tell you that I know Laken Riley's dad, and I would go out and kick every one of them out of this country just because of Laken Riley. So when Frederica Wilson said something like more people are getting rolled up because of Laken Riley, you're damn right they are, because this whole country saw what happened to Laken Riley, and we said hell no.
So is your point that the United States government should be like a murderer and not give people due process? You know, the purpose of due process is the idea that our government is above that people have certain presumptions of innocence and that the government needs to show evidence because the government is not supposed to be barbaric. The government is not supposed to be a murderer. The government is supposed to evaluate justice through a legal prism. The fact that you even have to lecture these people on it, that they're beyond due process, right? They just go right past due process, to me tells you everything you need to know. Hat tip right here to our friend Democratic Congress member Jake Auchincloss, who went on one of these Fox shows, the Will Cain show, and he schooled the host, Will Cain. Watch this, play this clip.
It's 3 years from now, and instead of a Republican president, it's a Democrat president. And this Democratic president says, you know, this journalist, Will Cain, man, he's really irritating me. And so I am going to lock him up and I'm going to accuse him of sedition and libel. And you call your lawyer and you say, whoa, I want to get a hearing in front of a judge. And the Democratic president says, nope, Will Cain is not legally a citizen because he committed crimes in the past that deprive him of due process. And you don't get a hearing. What I am telling you is that unless we ensure that everybody in this country gets to stand in front of a judge, everybody in this country cannot be confident that they will be able to stand in front of a judge when their political opponents get power.
Congressman, I'm confident that your hypothetical wouldn't even play out under a Democratic president. And I'm confident that you don't believe that either. I'm confident that you don't believe
this president this president just said he wants to apply his extradition of immigrants to El Salvador next to American citizens. Do you understand where this leads? The slippery slope that it takes us to? Until somebody gets to stand in front of a judge, we don't know whether they're illegal. We don't know what crimes they have been convicted of. The point is that politicians don't get to be judge, jury, and executioner. They have to go through the courts of law.
Congressman, I'm well aware now of what you're referencing. I'm not always aware of every single thing uttered from the President of the United States' mouth, but I am well aware of the statement he issued from the Oval Office about possibly expanding the El Salvadorian deportations to homegrown criminals. He did say very clearly in that clip, we'd have to obey the law. Not once, but twice. Homegrown criminals, but we'd have to obey the law. The reason I stick on that detail, Congressman, is that I feel like your party, even in your hypothetical that you just gave to me, is playing into fear mongering. You're trying to convince the American citizen that they are going to be in the same situation as an illegal immigrant who's accused of being a member of MS-13, domestic violence, and human smuggling. And it's simply not realistic. In fact, it's fear-mongering to suggest to the American people that somehow deporting Kilmar Brego Garcia means next they're going to deport Will Cain.
Yeah, I think fear-mongering is when the president tries to blame Canada for our problems, right? I'm not fear-mongering. I am defending the core principle of freedom. Freedom from fear. And again, That means that individuals should be able to walk to a CVS and buy some shaving